Hey everyone, how's everyone doing? And welcome back to the Hello Cannot podcast. We are only a few weeks away from Chinese New Year, but it seems like the lockdown is still going to continue, and we won't be able to go back to our favorite hometown, to travel around, to visit our family and relatives. So, in light of the situation, I would appreciate if everyone's able to just stay where you are, try to limit your travel or movements as much as possible, and just take care of yourself. And by just taking care of yourself, by just not moving around, you're taking care of everyone else around you as well. So keep that in mind. Now, for today's topic, I'll be continuing on my Adulting Series 101. So I have my cup of Horlicks today. Instead of coffee and tea, I have Horlicks. So I just wanted something chocolatey. I hope I have influenced your decision. And now you're going to get a cup of Horlicks or some kind of chocolatey drink. And if not, please just grab your coffee or tea and let's begin. Now, if you have not seen the title yet, for today's topic, we're going to be discussing on how to survive the company politics. Right, so this is a very, very important part in anyone's career. Yeah, so let's just start off by saying that you're one of the latest addition to a company. So this today's podcast is not only targeted specifically to fresh graduates, anyone who is experienced hired or who has experience in terms of the industry, who has been working for several years. If you have not played the company politics before, I would be happy to share some of it, and please do listen and see if they're applicable to you and how you can use them to your advantage. So, for the fresh graduates, I know this is your first time entering a company. Sometimes you might be the one you might have started your own business, so that's fine. It may not be as applicable to you, but you will hire employees that will form some type of, or at least they'll fall into certain categories that I'll be explaining later. And for those who are just working in corporate, you're going to enter a company that's going to be filled with dozens, hundreds, or even thousands of employees. These are all your colleagues, and for some of them, I would say, let's just keep them as colleagues. And for maybe a very few of them, they can be friends, and from that group of friends, only a very very minimal percentage can actually be your real friend. So now, the first day as you're walking into office, you're going to notice there's going to be eyes looking at you. And the eyes are going to come from groups of people that probably have already been, how should I say this? They've already gathered in their own crew or in their own gangs. So you go into the office, let's say the marketing department, they already formed their own gang and everyone's just stopped their work. They're looking at you walking into the office. People from HR, people from accounting, everyone's just looking at you, but they're already in their respective groups, right? They're just standing there, looking at you, waiting for you to see what kind of person comes in. And I know for all of the guys out there, I know this in corporate office, you're always looking for the latest fresh graduate hot babe that comes into office. And for that, I say shame on you. So don't do that. Don't stop your work just because some hot babe came into office. So just keep doing your work. Why are you being so nosy or busybody? Okay. But also just to highlight that there will be certain isolated people who are working in their own silos. So just keep that in mind because they might be applicable to what I'll be speaking about later in this podcast. Okay, so next thing you're going to do is you're going to find out where exactly you're going to sit, which department you belong to, and what your table is going to look like. And as soon as you sit down, or maybe even just right before, that's when people start approaching you. And now here comes the time to play Who Wants to Be a Politician? Well, there you go. In fact, that's not even a question. You're forced to play the game. Either you're going to be a real politician, you're going to play by the rules, or you're just going to sit out and just keep being a quiet and silent politician at the side. Okay, Now, let me just give you a first few guidance steps. As your first time going into a new office, a new environment, I'll list through about 5 good steps that you can take into action, because these 5 good steps will probably keep you safe from harm. Okay. Now, the step 1, look for a mentor. This is very, very crucial. It's the first person that you're going to be tied to, and this must be someone that you can trust. It can be someone who can constantly guide you throughout your career, or just maybe someone you can pick your brains with during lunch or coffee breaks. I know I have that kind of mentor, that kind of friends, someone who I could always reach out to, that will not have any ill intention towards me or anything that I'm doing or working on. This person is very important because they will be there supporting you and helping you through the tough times playing these political games in office. So find someone. Make sure you don't be too rushed into making that decision on finding someone. Make sure that you spend some time, you get to know people from time after time, and then you find the right person, the most suitable person that that mixes well with your personality. Stick to that person like yoo-hoo glue, like elephant glue. Do not leave that person unless something bad happens between the two of you. Okay? So, first step, find a good mentor. And finding a good mentor actually boils down to the second aspect as well. And the second aspect is basically networking. So, if you're new to a company, you always have to start off by meeting people. You need to remember who they are, their names, and what their positions are. You need to also understand, right, what roles each of them play and what they may be known for. It could either be good or bad things, but you should try to keep tabs on what they are. So, like a squirrel that's trying to gather as much nuts for the upcoming cold winter, you need to gather all of this information. Just write them down or just store them in your head somewhere. And after, like probably speaking to them and networking around, make sure that you fill them up maybe in a page, right? Like grab a piece of paper, grab a pen, put down the people that you know, what they're responsible for, what their roles are, and if possible, put it down as what they do. Maybe this person is in charge of marketing and what they're known for. They're known maybe for pushing people to hit KPIs. So that would be a con, and that's not someone that you want to really associate yourself with unless necessary, or unless that person is your boss, then that's a different story. But put it all down, right? So hopefully at the end of the list you would have, let's say, 10 people. Out of these 10 people, there are probably 2 or 3 people that are still decent, and they're the right people that you want to approach. Okay, now following back from my first rule, which is looking for a mentor, as you're doing this networking activity, when you start to socialize with the 2 or 3 people that you think are decent, pick a mentor out of them. If you can get all 3, that would be great. But as you're starting to mingle with them to build relationships, you'll probably soon realize that only maybe 1 or 2 of them will be the right mentor for you. And these are the people that you want to be known with, right? You don't want to be known with the busybody, nagging bosses around you, right? You don't want to be known with the people who gossip, who backstab. You want to find the right type of people to be around with, and that's how you start off, by networking. Networking is easily the most important skill that you need to learn wherever you go. Now, let's move on to point number 3. And this one is, I think it's quite obvious, but often enough we don't pay attention. We still forget from time to time, and that would be to always stay aware, right? Always be aware of everything that is going on, and if possible, if you notice something is wrong or awkward or something that shouldn't really be happening, avoid contributing to those type of politics at any cost, right? Now, staying aware has 2 benefits to it. The first benefit you're going to get is you will start noticing habits, behaviors, things that happen around other people might be useful information to you. Now, you can play this to your advantage by knowing everyone's so-called secrets. You're basically going to be the blackmail person of the company. You may not be the only one, but you can be one of the people that holds important information on people around you, and that you can use it to your advantage only when you really need to. And I would sincerely advise that do not take this route unless you necessarily must do it, right? Sometimes backstabbing can get a bit hard, and that's when you really need to pull out all of the evidence and just fire back at the people that are trying to harm you. Okay, so the second point that you want to know is the second point that you want to avoid is when things happen, when people start to gossip, when people are pulling you in to spill any kind of information, any kind of beans to you. You can avoid it, or you can listen to it and just keep it to yourself. Some information could be detrimental to your career, to your workload and whatnot. And just by staying aware keeps you away from all of these big problems. Okay, so just to recap a bit: step one, look for a mentor. Step two, networking. Step three is stay aware. Now I'm going to move on to step four. Step four is going to make yourself, you need to go the extra distance to really accomplish step four. Okay, step four, I'm just going to say it out loud. You need to be helpful or useful, or maybe more specifically, do not step on anyone's toes. It is basically only a matter of time before your feet starts to step on imaginary toes. You're going to eventually offend someone, whether it's your intention or not. And until then, you're just going to do your best to not give them the chance to speak badly about you. You do not want to give them ammunition. You do not want to give them any bullets that they can fire back at you based on whatever you have done, your behavior, and your habit. This is a very, very hard thing to practice because it requires you to pay full attention to everything, every small detail that you're trying to pull. So, yes, be helpful and useful, but do not offend anyone. So, one step to really, really take all the hit off you is to help teammates or help your supervisor out. So, in one of the research that I've read, this is quite some time back, a lot of people remember you based on their first impressions, right? So maybe your first impression towards them is when you're helping them out to achieve something, to accomplish, to make something successful, maybe in a project, maybe hitting the marketing KPI sales. This kind of things can actually leave a very good impression for the people that you're working with or for. Now, with this first impression, it's going to give you a very good benefit of the doubt, right? Which means that by just setting the standards so high to the people that you're working with, you're just going to assume that this person, yourself, is going to come up with great results, great success, and you're not going to be a pain to the team. So this is very important. I'm just trying to re-summarize as much as possible, because one wrong step could be the end of the end of your career, right? Not necessarily that you get fired, but basically that is going to give you a bad impression, and that's just going to send you down a very deep hole, which it will be very, very hard to climb out of. Now, when you are actually helping people, one thing that I would actually recommend is to do this during working hours. So when you're helping during working hours, this is what I would really, really recommend. And if you do think that you still have time to help out even more after working hours, please do so at your own discretion. And this is also under the assumption that you're not harming anyone when you're helping out people, which basically goes back to you being a very good employee, a very good colleague, and a good friend to those that actually need you and will actually appreciate your presence. Okay, now point number 5. This is a very short one, but it basically overlaps with point number 3, which is to stay aware, as well as point number 4, to be helpful or useful. And the point number 5, the last point that I have here, is to engage cautiously. There will be a time when you're forced to speak with certain people to get information out of them, or maybe even to collaborate with them to get a project delivered or something to be accomplished, right, to be successful. The critical part that most people fall for is not basically the initiation or the way you approach someone, but how you react to the situation. So sometimes people will try to throw you off guard, and when you get caught in the momentum, sometimes you're still in the state of shock. You do not know how to respond, and sometimes you will start to panic. You will feel anxious. You start to feel nervous, and you start doing things that you would normally not do. So let's say, for instance, your marketing manager comes out of nowhere and says, "Hey, I need to hit this ridiculous KPI, which I want you to complete by end of this month and have it delivered to me on my table." Now, if it's your first time expecting this kind of treatment, maybe you freeze and be like, "Oh, okay, sure, let me do it, and let me take care of this," right? Because you do not know how to respond, and always the safest way out would be to say, "Sure, let me handle this." But after that, you realize that, hey, this is impossible. Like, no matter how hard I work, 24/7, 365 days a year, it's just an impossible target to hit. That's when you have to figure out, okay, I need to support, give evidence and support why I'm not able to make this happen. And most of the time, when you're trying to reject something that you've already agreed upon, it's not going to reflect well upon yourself. And you don't really want to set that kind of precedence to your marketing manager, for this example, right? And you don't want to let them know that you are the one who agreed to it, to the terms, and you pulled out and say that, something came up and I'm not able to achieve this target. So just remember to engage very cautiously and always keep calm and think about it twice before you promise anything, right? And if you require any clarification, don't be afraid to ask it on the spot, or if you have any teammates that you can refer to, any mentor that you found from step one, and ensure that you have all the information you need to perform or make an informed decision. Okay, now, knowing all of these 5 essential rules when you're first entering a company is just setting you up for partial success, I would say, because doing all of the things that I mentioned before is only going to keep you safe for a while, right? Temporarily, you're not going to be touchable, or basically you will be invincible only for a very short period of time. Eventually, as your work starts to pile up and your relationship with your colleagues, they start to cause problems, that's when you're going to let your guard down and you're not going to be safe anymore. You're bound to create some kind of fault, and you're going to be liable for that fault. So what I'm going to do next is to keep you alive even further, alive unscathed, which means that you'll be untouchable maybe for a very much longer period of time, and to ensure that this company politics that is happening everywhere around you is not going to affect, number one, your bonus, and number two, your promotion, and number three, your performance. Because these are basically the things that we're trying to work and give our best for, and we expect the highest or higher returns because of it. But just getting caught up with company politics is going to ruin all of that ambition. Okay, so it really helps if you have experience with what I'm about to share. If not, just write it down or try to remember the things that I'll be saying. Okay, now, to keep yourself alive, this is actually the 6th most important step as well, that I would like to add on to my earlier list, and that would be to start mapping people around you, or in other words, categorize the people that you're dealing with on a day-to-day basis, or just everyone around you. And why do these categories matter? Because they are going to be your bullet for self-defense. You may not necessarily need to use it against them, but just by keeping tabs on what kind of person they are, there are certain mitigation steps that you can prevent yourself from falling into any traps that are laid out by them. So let's start. The first type of people that you're going to commonly find is what I would call as the spotlight stealers. So these are the sneaky people in the company. They are sneaky because they know people have things that they want, and they might even notice you have something that they want. They'll basically come to you when you're alone. They'll try to initiate to engage in small talk, and eventually they'll pick your brain on what could be the next big contribution to the company. They'll always remind you of how great and how smart you are. In the meantime, they're basically stealing your ideas and walking away with it, and they're going to go to the bosses and claim it for themselves. These are the people that are stealing contributions, they're going to backstab around, and they'll be the ones who are getting promoted or getting the better performance reviews. This kind of sneaky bastards needs to be handled, I'm here to recommend a way on how to deal with them. So if you remember my point number 3, which is to stay aware, this is very important because you're going to figure out that just by staying aware, your idea has already been stolen. Now, eventually the bosses or your supervisors or team leads are going to bring it up, and you're going to notice that, hey, that was my idea, and that person, someone, the spotlight stealers, they basically stole it and presented that idea. So what you can do is you can reply to your bosses or your leads and tell them, I'm glad my idea was picked up by quote unquote that person, so thanks for recognizing my idea. So that's how you tell them that the idea originated from you, and you have full knowledge that you're basically sharing this idea with that spotlight stealer, and that person is able to execute the plan, the idea that you have. Now, present all the evidence that, if possible, of your idea, that how you came up with it, what is your supporting evidence, what is the calculations that you made to actually come up with this idea. And if hopefully you have all this information, right, and you get supported by your managers, your leads, whoever, and once you're done with trying to defend yourself, keep in mind, do not re-engage with the spotlight stealers anymore, and always stay silent around them if they try to approach you for a second or third time, or even just time after what has happened. Remember to mark this person down. He needs to go on your blacklist for the rest of your entire career. Okay, now let's move on to someone that poses less of a risk, but they're basically what we call as busybodies in Malaysia, and the actual term that I will give them is the forever busy victim. These are the people that, they pretend to always be looking out for you. They want to know what you're doing, how busy you are, and what you can do to help each other. But maybe one thing that you actually notice is that when you're actually speaking to them, you're asking them how is their day, they're always busy. They're forever busy with work, even though they hop around chatting with everyone else. They're never really at their own desk. Basically, they're there to disrupt everyone's time at work while always claiming that they're busy and they do not have sufficient time to complete the task at hand, and that's where they need additional help to complete it. Okay? Now, here's how you deal with them. It's just going to be a 2-steps process, and I promise you, it always works. Whenever they're around you and they're trying to chat you up, trying to ask you how your day was, to tell you how busy they are, perform these 2 steps. Step 1, look away. Step 2, stay silent. You're just basically trying to ignore them as much as possible until that they give up. To a certain extent, they are actually attention seeking, and by not giving them the satisfaction or giving them the attention that they're looking for, you're just going to push them away, and trust me, that's a very, very good thing to happen. If you do think that they're always coming to you and they're really, really disrupting whatever progress you've made throughout for your work, right? Maybe try to escalate this issue. You may want to report them and hope that action will be taken. Maybe they'll get fired. That's probably the worst case scenario, but you want to ensure that they stop disturbing you. Now, let's move on to the third category of people that you need to map out, and that would be the not invincible, but invisible teammates. So like every group assignment that you've ever been placed in, where someone in the team, they don't really contribute, or they just put in no effort to work on the project, on the group assignment, these are the people that are going to put the deliverables, the progress at risk, and you might need to get this sorted out as soon as possible. Sometimes the invisible teammate is also the busybody or the forever busy victim from the second category, But you need to ensure that if these people do show up in your group or team project or assignments, please try to get rid of them as soon as possible. If not, at least make sure that some actions will be taken to them if they do not contribute to this assignment. So how do you deal with them? Hopefully everyone here has been in a group assignment with someone who has not really contributed. So of course the easiest way would be to report them and escalate them, but I would actually recommend to give them a warning first. Warn the person, let them know that their absence or at least their lack of contribution is felt and it is known by the entire team. It has placed a burden on the people that are remaining in the project, and unless they start putting in the hours and giving their effort, their absence will be made known to whoever is in charge. So shoot out a warning first, because that's always step one, to let them know what went wrong. And at least sometimes in the corporate world, before you escalate to someone, your bosses will always ask, have you faced the person and tell them that they have this problem? So engagement with the person who is at fault is always going to be your first step. And once you have done so, you're basically validated to speak to the bosses for higher escalation. So that's fine. Quickly get these people mapped out and take action as soon as you can. Alright, so I'm going to move on to the last three categories of company politicians that I find are the most dangerous people, not only to yourself, right, as a fresh joiner to the company, but also to everyone else around them and the politicians themselves. They're basically like Donald Trump. They're ready to explode and they're going to take people down with them. Now, starting off with the first on the dangerous list, or the fourth category, you have the black market dealer. So this is easily one of the most dangerous people that you want to avoid. They have dirt on everyone and all the bad things that has been said and done by anyone. These are the people that have played the stay aware game for as long as they could. They have been very, very careful in terms of engaging people, and they are ready to use that information against you or anyone else at any given moment. Anything that you can say just gets added into his list. Now, how to deal with them. Here's how you do it. Did you hear that? No, nothing. Precisely. Silence is the best way to deal with them. You do not say anything and you just keep information quiet to yourself and do not reveal anything. Maybe the only greetings that you can give is like, hey, hi, how are you, good morning, and goodbye. And if you're able to map out this person as early as possible, then you can have the benefit of staying silent around them and not giving any additional information to them that can be used against you or your team. But you can actually choose option number 2, which is to be friends with them. To be, in this case, if you're going to actually be friends, you're basically committing to being an accomplice, right? So if anything happens, they're going down, these black market dealers, they're going to take you down with them as well. So you can be friends with them, you can get all the dirt you can from anyone against anyone else, but please be careful and be aware of the results. It can backfire on you as well, so be careful. And next on our list, we have the best friend terrorist. Now, why do I say best friend and terrorist in the same term, same category? Because this person basically wants to be your bestie, your best friend, the only person that you can think of at any given moment to rely on, and they'll give you the false impression that they're there to support you whenever you need help. So these people will start off by inviting you to lunch, to dinner, to company parties, or even any private personal parties. You may believe that they're trying to involve you in as much activities as possible, and they're happy for you to be around, right? They want you to be exposed to the people, to the environment, and get yourself familiarized. But the real thing that's happening behind the scenes is that as often as you join all of these events, you're eventually going to set expectations to a different level, and your best friend terrorist is going to expect you to attend every single invitation that's going to come your way. So in other words, you're going to be held hostage because there will come a point of time where you're not able to accept every invitation. But as decent human beings, we try not to disappoint or to cause any relationship to sour. So we try to attend as many events and try to satisfy everyone else, just not ourselves, right? As much as possible. And this hostage situation will only get worse as time passes on. Now, I'm very happy to say that there is a very easy way to deal with this or this type of people, and that's basically by choosing your events wisely. So at the beginning of all of these invitations, you only choose to attend those that are really, really necessary. And by doing so, you're setting the expectations low. You do not want to set the impression that you're a very active socialite, that you're able to attend every single invitation. So explain why you cannot attend all of them, because perhaps you might have other obligations or family events that you need to attend. But just be prepared for backstabbing, and you can feel free to stand your ground and find a new and better colleague, because this is not the right person you want to be with who has expectations of you joining every single event that they're trying to be part of. So my biggest recommendation here would be to ditch the toxic bitch. Okay, sorry for stirring on that. And now we have the last category that you need to map out. These are the people that, remember how I mentioned there'll be people working in silos? These are the final category of people. These are the people that they claim as the one who the world hates, the one that God has forgotten. So this type of people, they have problems in basically almost every aspect of their lives. Their families, their love relationships, their friendships, their work. The list just goes on, and they see the negativity in everything and rarely see themselves as the problem. So similar to another example, if a girlfriend wants to break up with a boyfriend for the first time, maybe they were just not they're not suitable for each other, and each of them might have their own problems. But if 10 girls have broken up with the same boyfriend, so maybe this boyfriend has dated 10 girls and they all broke up with him, maybe you need to start wondering if, as the boyfriend, are you the one that is the problem? So these people are the self-destructive people. You want to keep a safe distance from them, because if anything happens, just like the black market dealer, they're going to destroy everything and they'll take you down with them as well. So getting associated with them might cause some issues, some general concerns. So stay away and avoid if you can. Now, I'm actually under the sincere belief that not everyone is a lost cause. So maybe if you can spend some time, sit the person down, start talking about the good aspects before moving on to the negativity. Let them know that this is really not healthy for themselves or anyone around them. Help just guide them to be more positive. The best way to deal with them is to spend time and effort, guide them back to the right path, and hopefully they'll become better because of your presence or your existence. This can basically end in many ways, and sometimes it just doesn't end well. But remember that you have actually tried helping this person. They have to put in the effort to improve themselves. They are also liable for the current state that they're being in. So do not blame yourself if anything happens, okay? Because I do understand for certain people, they have come across suicidal friends or colleagues. But also, if you feel like you're being pulled into the negativity and you start seeing the bad aspects of things, then maybe it's good to distance yourself from them before you get too involved and you're not able to pull out. Yeah, so that's it. So these are the 6 categories of people you need to map out as soon as possible. Of course, there's going to be more than just these 6 categories, but these are the more common and popular ones that you definitely see around you. So map everyone out, give them a kind of defining characteristic, and see what you can do and how you can actually deal with them. Because by playing the company politics the right way, you're going to ensure that your path to getting promoted, to getting better benefits, better salary is manageable. is not as risky, and there are certain steps that you can take to mitigate it. So start by knowing the people and assigning them the right profile to be associated with them. So I hope everyone has learned a thing or two from this week's podcast. I hope it's actually practical and that you can take all of the advice that I've given, and you're able to smoothly, grow in your company, grow in your career, and that you're safe from all of this company politics. If you think that there's more to company politics and there's things that you would like to share or comment on, please do feel free to leave us a comment on Instagram or YouTube. And hopefully you'll be able to join us for all of the subsequent episodes for the adulting series. And hey, give it a like if you enjoyed the content, and share it with your friends so that, as a community, we're able to grow together, and ethically we're able to help each other out so that nobody gets fallen behind and everyone has the right knowledge to proceed. Not sure if you guys can hear it. The ambulance outside my house is ringing again. There has been a lot of COVID cases. So putting company politics aside, please stay safe, stay healthy, maintain your social distance, and if you do not catch me in the next episode, Happy Chinese New Year, 新年快乐，恭喜发财, and take care, stay safe. Goodbye, everyone. This is the Hello Cannot podcast.